Hello everybody, my name is Trevor Blake. People call me a serial entrepreneur, and I wanted to talk to you about recessions and depressions because this is June 2020 and we are in what is called officially a recession. And most people I've met since we had the official recession are reacting as if the sky is falling in. And I want to talk about the reality of recessions and something more important, and that is that I believe wholeheartedly that there is never a better time to reinvent yourself and achieve rapid financial independence than in a recession or a depression. And I'll explain some of the reasons why in a minute. But when I hear people talking recession and depression, it actually makes me smile. I look forward to it because it gives me an opportunity to start something new. And don't just take my word for it. Half the companies make up the Dow were started in a recession. In February 2020, there were 6% more startups than in February 2019 when we were in this golden period of seemingly of a bull market that would never end. I started my first two companies. I've started 5 companies. I've sold the first 3 for about 300 million. So when I'm not talking about mom and pop style companies, serious companies that have serious impact in the world. The first one I started in 2001 in the credit crunch when I had no money of my own and needed to borrow money, and everyone said it's impossible. We're panicking, there's no credit, there's no money around. But actually, that year there was $170 billion lent to companies. 2008 I started my second company, and 2008 was the panic of the banking crisis. And these recessions always goes by these dramatic labels. They're always, the Knickerbocker Panic, the Copper Panic, the Great Depression. They always have these dramatic labels to give the impression that the sky is falling, to cause you to fear and panic. That's the whole point. And the reason that they do that is that the media love these things, just like they love viruses, and just like they love revolutions. They can make it seem like the end of the world is nigh. And the reason they do that is they exist to sell commercial space. That's their only reason for existence. And they sell commercial space by getting bums on seats. And the only way to get bums on seats long enough to watch commercials is to paralyze you with fear. But the reality of the situation is that in the United States alone since 1785, there have been 49 recessions or depressions. 49. And the reason is that everything in life is energy, and energy flows in cycles. And cycles have what we call like an upturn, and then they have a downturn. And there's not up and down, and it's not good or bad. That's just our human judgment of it. It's just an effort to rebalance towards equilibrium. And you can see it play out. If you take all the recessions and depressions and all the bull markets over time and get averages, the average recession lasts 22 months, the average bull market lasts 27 months. And the rest of the time is somewhere near equilibrium, which is what we're always trying to do. It's demand and supply playing out. People interfere when things aren't going well, and they falsely pump up to a bull market, stock buybacks and corporate bond buying. And then when things seem to be going in the opposite direction, and governments react with panic because people watch media, and media says recessions and depressions are bad, right? So the government says that means they're not going to vote for us because we're in power right now and it doesn't look good. So they do everything they can to stop a recession, but you can't stop a recession. And the more that they pump into the system to stop a recession, the deeper it's going to go eventually. It's common sense, but you will not find common sense amongst politicians or any kind of leadership. You just find knee-jerk reaction all the time. But the system itself, the economic system, is a form of energy, and regardless of what anybody else does to try and change that, because it's energy, it will work towards equilibrium. And it's a perfect thing. If everyone would leave it alone, we'd all be fine. But it's interesting, the media give it all a dark name, the panics and the deep depressions and all that, just to get your bums on seats and to cause you panic. But if you go on Wikipedia, you can look at all the recessions and depressions, and the names are quite funny. And you can look at all 49s, but when you go to the bottom, what's really interesting is that someone has already put in COVID depression 2020. And I'm sure because the last bull market was falsely propped up by things like corporate stock buybacks and government intervention. It went on for a very long time. It broke records, but it didn't break records because everything was going well for a long time. It broke records because people wouldn't stop interfering in it. And so you have this long bull market. So probably to balance that, we're going to have a long and deep depression. And people won't pay attention to the fact, because you won't see it on the media, that all recessions are caused by greed. So basically corporate stock buybacks and corporate bond buying, which is, if you don't know what those are, it's a bit like lending money to really poorly run companies. All of that has to have a cost to it, and so when that stops, then the poorly run companies will go out of business and everything changes, and that's fine. That's the nature of energy. No one's going to blame poor leadership. No one's going to blame inept response to COVID-19. They're all going to say, okay, it's a COVID-led depression, but it's not. It's a greed-led depression that's going to be exacerbated by really bad man management, and it is man management, unfortunately. Bad man management of dealing with a virus. So if you ignore media's dark tones, and you realize that recessions and depressions are part of the balancing of life, then you can face it with a slightly different approach than the way the media wants to face it. The media wants you to, go into a fetal position on the couch and watch 24/7 Fox News or CNN or BBC. Okay, so if you know that this is just part of the natural order of life, a balancing thing, then you can quite easily face it with eyes wide open, and you can take my advice that there is never a better time to reinvent yourself and start your own venture in anything than in a recession. And so here's why. I'll give you a couple of quick ideas why. People say I'm a successful serial entrepreneur because I've built and sold 3 companies, and I'm running 2 companies right now. My track record doesn't count for anything when I go and talk to an investor. If everything is sunny, if it's a bull market, and I knock on the door to an investor, or a distributor, or a manufacturer, or whoever I need to, any stakeholders I need to talk to. When I knock on the door, and they open the door and they see it's me, it doesn't matter what I've done in the past. They slam the door in my face because they don't need me right now. They've got everything they want. They've got all the orders that they can handle. Business is good, and my tiny little business is of no interest to them whatsoever. In a recession or a depression, I can go and knock on the same doors, and they will open it and they'll go, "Oh, I'm so sorry, we were so brusque with you before. We were just too busy, we realised we made a mistake. Please come in, would you like a cup of tea?" It's a completely different ambience because all of their major customers have retreated, have pulled back demand, they've overreacted. A recession is coming, we better pull out, we better rein in all the stuff that we're doing. And so their revenue just sort of implodes like a sort of whirlpool. And they're desperate for any business, any new business. And so for the first time in the life of a startup, in a recession or depression, probably the only time in a startup's life, you have negotiating power. So not only do you get their attention, not only do they want to help you, but you can negotiate really powerful terms, which you can't negotiate in a bull market. Powerful terms are really important for a startup because cash flow management is essential to going through the survival phase. So there's the survival phase, and there's the startup phase, the survival phase, and the thriving phase of any company, of any startup. And 82% of all failures fail because of cash flow mismanagement. It's not necessarily the fault of the person who's in charge of the cash. So it's not the business owner's fault. It's oftentimes the nature of the business environment. And so you can't get good terms. You have to pay in 30 days, or you start paying interest, things like that. In a recession or a depression, you can negotiate 90 days no interest payments. You can negotiate 6 months management fee-free periods. You can negotiate all of these things, and they'll only be too willing to take it. And the reason they're so willing to take it is not because it's going to make a big boost to their business, but it gives them job protection because they can show their boss, "Look, I've brought on some new business. I know we lost some big clients, but I've got these really exciting new companies that are coming in. Aren't I doing well?" And that's why it works. And that's why recessions and depressions are so much fun to work in as a startup entrepreneur. In addition to that, a third reason is there's just a plentiful supply of people, services, widgets, manufacturing, distribution, whatever you're into. Because the recession and depression is a rebalancing act. Poorly run companies go out of business. That means there's a lot of ex-employees around. That means that there's a lot of unused inventory that you can get for pennies on the dollar. All of these opportunities only happen when everybody else is curled up in a fetal position in the sofa watching the sky fall in. And you as an entrepreneur, and me as an entrepreneur, we can go out there and we can make hay while a different type of sun shines for us. So my advice to you is, if you've been fooled by the media into thinking that, oh my God, we're in a recession, and you make the mistake that a lot of people I hear say these things. They say, "I'll just wait. I want to start my own company. I want to start my own art gallery. I want to do this, that, and the other. I'll just wait till all of this crisis passes." That's too late. You've missed the great opportunity. So my advice is, jump in right now, start your own thing, and you'll look back and you'll never stop smiling at how you made out good when everybody else was in fear.